The ship shook as it entered the atmosphere of the unknown planet. Outside the small window, orange clouds parted to reveal a landscape of purple mountains and dark green forests. Jack Collins gripped the edge of his seat, heart racing with excitement. This was why he had joined the space program, to see new worlds, to find new life. "Everyone strap in for landing," ordered Captain Olivia Martinez from the pilot's seat of the small scout ship. Her voice was steady, but Jack could hear the tension in it. The year was 2157, and humans had only been traveling among the stars for 30 years. They had met other aliens, joined something called the Galactic Council, and started to build homes on 3 planets besides Earth. Most aliens they met were friendly enough, trading with humans and sharing some of their knowledge. But not all aliens were friendly. "Are you sure about this, Jack?" asked Alan Dawson, the ship's security officer. He checked his laser rifle for the 3rd time in 10 minutes. "The Council warned us about drachnoids in this area." Jack nodded. He was a xenobiologist, someone who studied alien life. At age 32, he had already discovered 5 new alien species. None of them had been dangerous, but this mission felt different. "The distress signal is clear," Jack said, looking at the flashing dot on his small computer screen. "Someone or something needs help down there." Captain Martinez landed the ship in a small clearing. Through the window they could see tall trees with blue leaves swaying in the wind. The sky above was a deep orange with 2 small moons visible despite the daylight. "Air is breathable," reported Linda Wells, checking the instruments. She was the youngest member of their 5-person team, serving as both engineer and medical assistant. "Temperature is warm but comfortable, no signs of immediate danger." Captain Martinez stood up, her short frame somehow filling the cabin with authority. "We go out in full protective gear. Weapons ready but not aimed. Remember, we're here to help if we can, but our safety comes first." The team put on their light armor, clear helmets and white bodysuits that could stop most attacks and keep out any dangerous particles. Jack also carried his medical kit. If something was hurt, he wanted to be ready to help. As they stepped outside, the rich smell of alien soil and plants filled their helmets. Jack looked around in wonder. The trees were not just blue-leaved, but had bark that seemed to shine with a soft light. Small creatures like 6-legged squirrels jumped between branches, making musical calls to each other. "It's beautiful," whispered Linda. "Stay focused," warned Alan, his hand never far from his weapon. "The signal is coming from that direction." They walked for 20 minutes through the forest. The ground was soft under their boots, and strange insects with glowing bodies buzzed around them, curious about the visitors. Then they heard it, a low, rumbling growl that seemed to shake the very air around them. "Stop," Captain Martinez raised, her hand. The team froze in place. Through the trees ahead they could see something moving. Something big. "Drachnoid," whispered Carlos Diaz, the team's communication specialist. His face had gone pale behind his helmet. "It has to be." Everyone in the galaxy knew about drachnoids, 12 feet tall when standing on their hind legs, covered in armor-like scales that could turn away most weapons, jaws strong enough to crush metal, claws sharper than surgical blades, and worse, they were smart. Not just animal smart, but smart enough to build ships and use advanced technology. They were the apex predators of the galaxy. Most species avoided them at all costs. Those who didn't avoid them usually ended up dead. "We should go back to the ship," Alan said, already taking a step backward. But Jack stood still, listening. The growls had changed. They weren't threatening sounds anymore. They sounded like pain. "It's hurt," Jack said suddenly. He moved forward before anyone could stop him. "Jack, no," Captain Martinez hissed, but he was already pushing through the last line of trees into a small clearing. What he saw made him stop in his tracks. There, caught in what looked like a metal trap, was a drachnoid, but not a full-grown one. This was young, maybe half the size of an adult. Its scales were a deep blue-green, and its 6 eyes glowed yellow with fear and pain. One of its 4 powerful limbs was caught in the metal teeth of the trap, dark purple blood pooling beneath it. The creature saw Jack and let out a warning growl, showing rows of teeth that could tear him apart in seconds, but it couldn't move far because of the trap. Jack noticed something else too. Fallen around the clearing were several devices that looked like cameras and sensors. Someone had set this trap deliberately, probably rare animal hunters looking, to capture a young drachnoid. The rest of the team had cautiously joined Jack at the edge of the clearing, weapons now drawn and pointed at the trapped alien predator. "We need to leave it," Alan said firmly. "That's a drachnoid, Jack. Even a young one could kill us all." "It needs help," Jack replied, already opening his medical kit. "Look at that trap. It wasn't set by drachnoids. Someone is hunting them." "Not our problem," Carlos said nervously. "The Council has strict rules about interfering with drachnoids." Jack looked at Captain Martinez. "The distress signal led us here. What if the drachnoid sent it? What if they're more than what everyone thinks they are?" The captain looked torn. Her duty was to keep her crew safe, but she was also an explorer at heart. The young drachnoid made another sound, softer this time, almost like a whimper. Its yellow eyes fixed on Jack, and he felt something he couldn't explain. A connection, a sense that this creature wasn't just a mindless predator. "I'm going to help it," Jack decided, removing his helmet despite the gasps from his teammates. "You'll be killed," Linda cried out. But Jack walked forward slowly, hands visible, speaking, in a soft, calm voice. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. I want to help." The drachnoid watched him come closer, its growls growing quieter. When Jack was just 5 feet away, it could have lunged and taken his head off in one bite. Instead, it lowered its massive head and made a clicking sound deep in its throat. Jack knelt beside the trapped limb. "This is going to hurt, but then you'll feel better," he said softly, knowing the creature couldn't understand his words but might understand his tone. With careful movements, Jack began to treat the wound, applying medicine to stop the bleeding. The drachnoid flinched but didn't attack. After a few minutes, Jack managed to release the trap. Free now, the young drachnoid stood up to its full height, already 8 feet tall. Jack remained kneeling, showing he wasn't a threat. The entire team held their breath. The drachnoid leaned down, its face coming close to Jack's. Then it did something that would change the course of galactic history forever. It gently pressed its forehead against Jack's in what seemed like a gesture of thanks. In that moment, Jack Collins became the first human to make peaceful contact with the most feared species in the galaxy. "You want to bring that thing onto our ship?" Captain Martinez looked at Jack like he had lost his mind. The young drachnoid sat nearby, still weak from its injuries, but watching them with intelligent eyes. 3 hours had passed since Jack had freed the creature from the trap. The rest of the team had slowly approached, weapons still ready but lowered. The drachnoid had not shown any signs of aggression. "It needs proper medical care," Jack argued. "I've done what I can here, but that wound could get infected." "It's a drachnoid," Alan reminded everyone as if they could have forgotten. "The deadliest predator known to any species in the galaxy." Jack looked back at the creature. "It's also young and hurt, and it hasn't tried to eat any of us, which goes against everything we've been told about drachnoids." Linda had been studying the trap that had caught the alien. "This technology is advanced. Someone wanted to catch this drachnoid alive." "Probably. Rare animal hunters," Carlos suggested. "I've heard drachnoid scales sell for thousands of credits on the black market." The young drachnoid made a clicking sound followed by a low hum. Jack had noticed it made different sounds for different situations. This one seemed almost like conversation. "I think it's trying to communicate," Jack said. Captain Martinez sighed. She was responsible for everyone's safety, but she also trusted Jack's instincts about alien life. He had been right many times before. "If, and I mean if, we bring it on board, how do we contain it? What if it's just waiting for the right moment to attack?" "We can use the cargo bay," Jack suggested. "It's large enough and we can set up a force field." After more discussion, they agreed. Using the ship's anti-gravity sled, they carefully transported the young drachnoid back to their ship. The creature remained calm during the journey, its 6 yellow eyes taking in everything around it. Back on the ship, they created a space in the cargo bay with food, water, and soft bedding. A blue force field separated the Dracnoid from the rest of the ship. Jack stayed on the same side as the creature, despite everyone's protests. "I need to treat its wound properly," he insisted. "And if we want to learn about Dracnoids, someone needs to be close to it." Over the next few days, Jack spent most of his time with the Dracnoid. He named it Blue because of its blue-green scales that seemed to shift color slightly depending on the light. He noticed that Blue was very smart. It watched everything Jack did with careful attention. When Jack brought tools or medicine, Blue would sniff them first, then give a specific clicking sound that Jack began to recognize as approval. On the 5th day, something amazing happened. Jack was sitting across from Blue, eating his lunch, when the Dracnoid made a series of sounds, clicks, hums, and low growls. Jack looked up, surprised. "Are you trying to talk to me, Blue?" Blue repeated the sounds, then pointed with one clawed hand to Jack's sandwich, then to its own mouth. "You want to try my food?" Jack asked, stunned. Blue nodded, actually nodded its massive head. Jack broke off a small piece of his sandwich and tossed it over. Blue caught it easily and ate it. Then it made a new sound, something like a purr. "I think it likes it," Linda said from behind the force field where she had been watching. She had become almost as interested in Blue as Jack was. That night, Jack couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about how Blue had communicated. Dracnoids weren't supposed to be able to understand human gestures like nodding. What if everything they knew about Dracnoids was wrong? The next morning, Jack asked Linda for help. As the ship's engineer, she was good with technology. "I need something that can help me communicate with Blue," he explained. "Something better than hand signals and guessing." Linda thought for a moment. "I might be able to modify one of our universal translators. It won't be perfect, but it might help." For 3 days, Linda worked on a device while Jack continued to spend time with Blue. The Dracnoid was healing quickly, its wounded limb almost completely better. It had started to move around more, showing its strength and speed even in the limited space of the cargo bay. It could break through that force field if it wanted to, Alan warned when he came to check on security. "These creatures can tear through metal. A force field wouldn't stop it for long." "But it hasn't tried," Jack pointed out. "I think it knows we're helping it." On the 8th day, Linda brought the modified translator device. "This might not work," she warned. "It's designed for species the Council has already studied. We know nothing about Dracnoid language." Jack attached the small device to his wrist. It would listen to Blue's sounds and try to find patterns that might match with meaning. "Hello, Blue," Jack said clearly. "Can you understand me?" Blue made a series of clicks and growls. The device on Jack's wrist processed the sounds, then displayed text. "Unknown pattern collecting data." "It will take time," Linda explained. "The more you both talk, the more data it collects." For the next week, Jack talked to Blue about everything: Earth, humans, space travel, and his own life. Blue would respond with sounds, movements, and what Jack was beginning to recognize as expressions in those 6 yellow eyes. Slowly, the translator began to identify patterns. Words started to appear on the small screen. Food, good. Jack, friend, home, miss. It's working. Jack told Captain Martinez during her daily visit to check on the situation. Blue can communicate basic ideas, and Captain, Dracnoids aren't just smart, they have culture, families, and feelings. Captain Martinez looked skeptical, but interested. "What has it told you?" "Blue is young, something like a teenager in human terms. It was separated from its family group during a hunt. And those traps we found? Blue says other aliens have been hunting Dracnoids for years." Before the captain could respond, the ship's alarm began blaring. Carlos's voice came over the speakers, panic clear in his tone. "Captain to the bridge. 5 unknown ships just appeared, in orbit around the planet. They're not responding to our hails." Blue suddenly stood up to its full height, making a sound the translator couldn't process. Its scales changed color, becoming brighter. "What is it?" Jack asked. The translator displayed, "Family, come, danger." Jack felt his heart race. "Captain, I think those ships belong to Blue's family. They're looking for their lost child. If those are Dracnoid ships, we're in serious trouble, Captain Martinez said, her face pale. No human has ever survived a close encounter with a Dracnoid fleet. Blue made more urgent sounds, pressing against the force field. The translator showed, "Help, speak, no fight." Jack looked from Blue to the captain. "I think Blue wants to help us communicate with them. This could be the first peaceful contact between humans and Dracnoids in history." Captain Martinez hesitated only briefly. "Turn off the force field. If Blue can prevent us all from being killed, I'm willing to try anything." Jack deactivated the force field. Blue stepped out, free for the first time since coming aboard. Everyone held their breath, waiting to see what the young Dracnoid would do. Blue walked to Jack and gently placed one clawed hand on his shoulder. The translator picked up the soft sounds it made. Trust, friend, together. The bridge of the small human ship was silent as everyone stared at the main screen. 5 massive ships hung in space above the planet. They were unlike any ships humans had seen before, dark blue-green like Blue's scales, with shapes that reminded Jack of ancient sea creatures from Earth. "Those are bigger than our largest battleships," whispered Carlos from his communication station. Blue stood beside Jack, its tall form making the bridge feel suddenly small. The young Dracnoid made a series of sounds. The translator on Jack's wrist displayed, "Family, Mother Leader, speak now." "They're hailing us," Carlos said, his voice shaking slightly. Audio and visual. Captain Martinez straightened her uniform and took a deep breath. "Put them on screen." The main screen flickered, and everyone gasped. A massive Dracnoid appeared, nearly twice Blue's size. Its scales were a deeper blue with streaks of silver. 12 yellow eyes, twice as many as Blue had, stared out from the screen. Behind this large Dracnoid, others could be seen moving around what appeared to be the bridge of their ship. "I am Captain Olivia Martinez of the Earthship Explorer. We come in peace," the captain said, her voice steady despite the tension. The large Dracnoid made sounds similar to Blue's, but deeper and more complex. No translation appeared. The device only worked with Blue's speech patterns so far. Blue stepped forward and made a series of rapid clicks, growls, and humming sounds. Jack could tell it was explaining something to the larger Dracnoid. The adult Dracnoid listened, its many eyes shifting between Blue and the humans. Then it made what sounded like a question. Blue turned to Jack and touched the translator on his wrist. The device displayed, "Show wound, show help, friend Jack." Jack understood. "Show them how I helped you," he said to Blue. Blue lifted its previously injured limb showing the healing wound, then pointed to Jack. For several tense minutes, Blue and the adult Dracnoid exchanged sounds. The humans waited, barely breathing. They all knew that if the Dracnoids decided to attack, their small ship wouldn't stand a chance. Finally, Blue turned to them, scales glowing slightly brighter. The translator showed, "Mother, understand. No attack. Want meet Jack." "Your mother wants to meet me?" Jack asked, surprised. "Yes. Mother Leader of all fleet. Important Dracnoid." Captain Martinez looked concerned. "They want you to go to their ship?" "I think so," Jack said, feeling both excited and nervous. No human had ever been on a Dracnoid ship before, at least none who had returned to tell about it. "That's too dangerous," Alan protested. "It could be a trap." Blue made an offended sound. The translator displayed, "No trap. Honor invite Jack special. First friend not Dracnoid." Jack looked at Captain Martinez. "I think I need to go. This could be the most important first contact in human history." The captain thought for a moment. "I don't like it, but I agree. If they wanted to destroy us, they could have done it already." Within an hour, Jack found himself in a small shuttle approaching the largest Dracnoid ship. Blue sat beside him, giving instructions through the translator. Linda had come too, both to pilot the shuttle and to improve the translation device if possible. As they neared the enormous ship, a section of its hull opened like the petals of a flower, revealing a docking bay inside. "That's amazing technology," Linda said as she carefully guided their shuttle into the opening. "The way those panels moved, it's more advanced than anything the Council has." Inside the Dracnoid ship, everything was different from human ships. The walls seemed alive, glowing with soft blue light. The air was warm and moist and smelled like a forest after rain. 3 adult Dracnoids waited for them. They were all at least 12 feet tall with variations in their scale colors. Blue led Jack and Linda from the shuttle, making introduction sounds. The largest Dracnoid, Blue's mother and the leader they had seen on the screen, stepped forward. She looked at Jack with all 12 of her yellow eyes, studying him carefully. Then, to Jack's surprise, she lowered her massive head and touched her forehead to his, just as Blue had done when they first met. It seemed to be an important greeting. Blue's sounds translated, "Mother, give highest respect, never before to human." For the next 2 hours, Jack and Linda sat in a circular room with Blue and several adult Dracnoids. Using the translator, which Linda kept improving, they began to learn the truth about Dracnoids. They were not the mindless killers that everyone in the galaxy thought them to be. Yes, they were powerful predators, but they were also highly intelligent with their own civilization. Art and complex family structures, why hide? Jack asked through the translator. Why Dracnoids stay secret? Blue's mother answered, her words now partially translating after Linda's adjustments to the device. Long ago, other species hunt us, think us only animals. Many Dracnoids die. We decide hide strength, show only danger, safer. Jack began to understand. The Dracnoids had isolated themselves from the rest of the galaxy, showing only their dangerous side as a way to protect themselves from being hunted. But that can't continue, Jack said. The galaxy is getting smaller as more species explore and expand. Eventually, conflicts will happen. What suggest? Asked Blue's mother. I think it's time for Dracnoids to show their true selves to the galaxy. Not just as predators, but as intelligent beings who deserve respect and have much to offer. Blue made a sound of agreement. The translator showed, Jack right. Begin with humans. Humans different. Jack helped, not feared. Blue's mother considered this for a long time. Finally, she spoke. Brave idea. Dangerous, but maybe time. Need official human speak. You need to speak with our government representatives, Jack clarified. I can arrange that. When Jack, Linda, and Blue returned to the Explorer, Captain Martinez could hardly believe what they reported. You're telling me that Dracnoids have been hiding their true nature all this time? That they're actually an advanced civilization? She asked. Yes, Jack confirmed. And they're willing to establish diplomatic relations with Earth. This could change everything. Within days, the news spread through human space and then to the Galactic Council. The reactions were immediate and chaotic. Most Council species refused to believe it. It's a trap, said the Vorn representative, a warrior species known for their militaristic approach. Dracnoids are cunning hunters. They're tricking the humans to get close to our worlds. Even on Earth, many leaders were skeptical and afraid. Only Admiral Frank Wilson, the head of Earth's space fleet, supported Jack's report. If Colin says the Dracnoids are peaceful, I believe him. His work with alien species has never been wrong before. As the debate raged across the galaxy, Blue remained with Jack, becoming the first Dracnoid ambassador, even though no one had officially given Blue that title. Together, they began visiting human colonies, showing that humans and Dracnoids could not just coexist but become friends. Many humans were terrified at first, but Blue's gentle behavior and obvious intelligence slowly changed minds. Not everyone was convinced. Twice there were attempts to kill Blue, once by a human extremist who feared aliens and once by an agent from another council species who didn't want Dracnoids to gain allies. Despite these dangers, Jack and Blue continued their mission. Change is never easy, Jack told Blue after one close call. But it's worth it if we can bring peace instead of fear. Blue's response translated simply, Friend Jack, together strong, make new galaxy. 6 months had passed since Jack first met Blue. Things were slowly changing. Earth had officially recognized Dracnoids as a sentient species and established basic diplomatic ties. 5 human colonies had welcomed Dracnoid visitors, though many, people still kept their distance out of fear. The Galactic Council, however, remained hostile. Most council species refused to believe that drachnoids were anything but dangerous predators. They had even threatened to kick Earth out of the council if humans continued their friendship with the galaxy's most dangerous creatures. Jack and Blue were on Earth, visiting a school in the city of New Chicago. Children were less afraid than adults, and Blue enjoyed answering their questions through the now much improved translator. "Do all drachnoids have 6 eyes like you?" asked a small girl with pigtails. Blue's translator voice, which now sounded smooth and almost human, replied, "Young drachnoids have 6 eyes. Adults gain more eyes as they age. My mother has 12 eyes. Our oldest elders have 24. "Cool," the children exclaimed. As the school visit ended, Jack received an urgent message on his communicator. Admiral Wilson needed to see them, immediately. An hour later, Jack and Blue sat in a secure conference room at Earth Space Command. Admiral Wilson looked worried as he activated a holographic display showing the outer edge of known space. 3 days ago, we lost contact with our research station near the Omega Nebula, the Admiral explained. We sent a ship to investigate. This is what they found. The hologram changed to show a space station, but it was barely recognizable. Large chunks had been torn away, and strange metallic objects were attached to what remained. "What happened?" Jack asked, leaning forward to study the image. "We don't know exactly," Admiral Wilson said. "But the ship recorded this before it had to retreat." The hologram showed strange ships unlike anything Jack had seen before. They weren't organic, looking like drachnoid vessels or smooth like human ships. They looked like metal spiders with long legs extending from central bodies that glowed with harsh red light. Blue made a low rumbling sound that the translator didn't convert. Jack had learned this meant Blue was deeply disturbed. "You recognize them?" Jack asked. Blue nodded slowly. "Old stories. Very old. From time of my great ancestors, the Devourers." Admiral Wilson raised an eyebrow. "Devourers? They come from outside galaxy. They do not communicate. They only take metal, technology, energy, sometimes living things too. Like a resource-gathering mission," Jack suggested. Blue shook its head. "Not mission, purpose. They exist to consume, to grow. They have no culture, no art, no families, only hunger." The Admiral looked grim. "Well, they've consumed one of our stations and the 60 people on it, and according to our long-range scans, they're moving inward toward populated systems." "Has the Council been informed?" Jack asked. "Yes. They're calling an emergency session, but their response has been typical. Lots of talk, little action. They're even suggesting that this might be a drachnoid trick." Blue's scales darkened with what Jack now recognized as anger. "Foolish. Drachnoids know the danger. We have old records, old warnings. Devourers came before, long ago. Many worlds lost, before they left." "Left so they were defeated?" "Not defeated, just went away. Our ancestors believed they consumed what they wanted, then returned to deep space, but always knew they might return." Admiral Wilson stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the busy spaceport below. "I've been authorized to request drachnoid help. Your people's technology is more advanced than ours in many ways. If these Devourers are as dangerous as you suggest, we might need your weapons." Blue was quiet for a moment, thinking. "I will speak with my mother. But Council must understand this threat is real. All must work together." 3 days later, representatives from Earth and the Drachnoid fleet met on a neutral space station. The Galactic Council had reluctantly sent observers but no official representatives. They still refused to officially recognize Drachnoids. Blue's mother, whose name translated roughly to Deepest Ocean, led the Drachnoid delegation. She had brought their oldest history keeper, a massive Drachnoid with 24 eyes and scales, that had faded to a pale gray. The history keeper shared ancient records, showing holographic images of the Devourer's previous invasion over 2,000 years ago. Back then, they had consumed 34 worlds before disappearing back into deep space. "Our ancestors learned they cannot be reasoned with," the history keeper explained through a translator. "They are not alive as we understand life. They are machines, but machines with hunger." "Machines?" Jack asked. You mean they're artificial? Yes, created long ago by a species now gone. The creators wanted servants that could gather resources. They made them too well. The devourers consumed their creators first, then spread. Admiral Wilson studied the ancient images. If they're machines, they must have weaknesses. Power sources. Control systems. Yes, agreed Deepest Ocean. Our ancestors discovered their central ships control smaller ones, like a hive of insects. Destroy the central ship, others become confused. The problem, added the history keeper, is getting close. Enough. Their weapons are strong. Their defenses too. For hours they discussed strategy. The Drachnoids agreed to share their advanced shielding technology with humans. In return, humans would share their stealth technology, which was better than what Drachnoids had developed. As the meeting ended, news came that the Devourers had attacked and consumed a small mining colony. 3,000 people had disappeared. This finally pushed the Council into action. They officially requested help from both humans and Drachnoids, setting aside their prejudices in the face of a greater threat. Within 2 weeks, an unlikely fleet had formed: human ships, Drachnoid vessels, and various Council warships, all preparing to face the Devourer threat together. Jack found himself appointed as the official liaison between humans and Drachnoids, with Blue as his counterpart. Together, they helped bridge communication gaps and smooth over conflicts as the different species struggled to work together. They still fear you, Jack told Blue as they watched Council engineers nervously working alongside Drachnoid technicians to integrate their different technologies. Fear is hard to unlearn, Blue replied, but necessity is a powerful teacher. The night before the fleet was to depart, Jack couldn't sleep. He stood in the observation deck of the human flagship, looking out at the assembled vessels, the largest combined fleet in known galactic history. Blue joined him, now fully grown and impressive at 12 feet tall. Worried? The Drachnoid asked. Yes, Jack admitted. These Devourers sound unlike anything we've faced before. True, but also, never before have so many different species fought together. Blue's scales glowed softly in the dim light. Whatever happens, you have changed the galaxy, Jack. Before you helped me, Drachnoids were alone. Now we have allies. Jack smiled at his friend. We'll need every ally we can get for what's coming. As if to emphasize his words, alarms, suddenly, began to sound throughout the ship. The Admiral's voice came over the speakers. All personnel to battle stations. The Devourers have changed course. They're heading directly toward us. Arrival estimated in 3 hours. Jack and Blue looked at each other, both thinking the same thing. The true test of their unlikely alliance was about to begin sooner than anyone had expected. The battle was fierce and terrible. The Devourer ships moved like hungry spiders, their red beams cutting through even the strongest shields. Several Council ships were lost in the first hour. The combined fleet fought back with everything they had, but it wasn't enough. We need to target the main ship, Jack shouted over the noise of alarms. He and Blue were on the bridge of the human flagship, helping coordinate the attack. Remember what the history keeper said. Destroy the central ship and the others will be confused. Admiral Wilson nodded grimly. But how? Our weapons can't get through their defenses. Blue's scales had turned a dark blue, a sign of deep thought among Drachnoids. My mother's ship has our strongest weapons, but they need to get close. And they can't get close because of those defense beams, Jack finished. He looked at the tactical display showing the massive central Devourer ship. It was protected by dozens of smaller vessels that formed a deadly barrier. Then Jack had an idea. What if we combine technologies, human stealth systems with Drachnoid weapons? 3 hours later, a small ship slipped away from the main fleet. It had been quickly modified with the best stealth technology humans had, and the most powerful weapons the Drachnoids could provide. Jack and Blue were aboard, along with a small crew of both humans and Drachnoids. This is crazy, said Linda, who had insisted on coming as their engineer. If they detect us, we're dead. They won't detect us, Jack said with more confidence than he felt. And we only need to get close enough for one good shot at their control center. Blue stood tall beside him. It will work. It must work. Their small ship moved silently through space, passing the outer ring of Devourer vessels. The stealth systems worked perfectly. The Devourers showed no sign of detecting them. As they approached the central ship, they could see it clearly through the viewports. It was enormous, at least 3 times the size of Earth's largest battleship. Its surface was covered with strange moving parts that seemed to be constantly rebuilding themselves. "Target locked," reported Allen, who operated the weapons. "One shot at their core. That's all we'll get before they know we're here." Jack looked at Blue. They had come so far since their first meeting in that forest. From enemies, according to everyone else, to the closest of friends. Now the fate of the galaxy rested on their unlikely partnership. "Together?" Jack asked. "Together," Blue confirmed, placing a clawed hand on Jack's shoulder. "Fire," Jack ordered. The ship shuddered as the combined human-drachnoid weapon launched. A beam of blinding white light shot out, striking the exact center of the Devourer mothership. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a wave of energy pulsed outward from the impact point. The mothership began to break apart, piece by piece. The smaller Devourer ships suddenly stopped attacking and began moving in random directions like insects that had lost their queen. "It worked," Linda shouted. "The central control is destroyed." The combined fleet quickly took advantage, destroying the confused Devourer ships one by one. Without central guidance, they couldn't coordinate their defenses. In the days that followed, celebrations spread across all worlds. For the first time in known history, humans, drachnoids, and council species had fought side by side, and won. 1 month later, Jack stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. Blue stood beside him, along with Deepest Ocean and representatives from all council worlds. The council leader, an ancient being from a species known for their wisdom, spoke. "Today marks a new beginning. The Drachnoid people are officially welcomed as equals in our galactic community." Cheers filled the hall. Jack smiled as he watched Deepest Ocean sign the treaty that brought Drachnoids into the council after thousands of years of isolation. "You did this," Blue said quietly to Jack. "One human who wasn't afraid." "We did it together," Jack corrected, "and we have much more to do." He was right. In the years that followed, Jack and Blue traveled throughout the galaxy as ambassadors of cooperation. They established the first interspecies academy, where young beings from all worlds could learn together. The galaxy was changing. Old fears were slowly being replaced by understanding. Old enemies were becoming allies. And it had started with one simple act of kindness in a forest on a distant planet, when a human decided to help rather than fear the deadliest predator in the galaxy. As Jack often told his students, the universe doesn't care about our differences. It's what we do despite them that matters.